So I have a question for you. Have you ever noticed that socialism as an ideology seems way less crazy than actual socialists? And don't get me wrong, I am not saying that socialism isn't crazy, but crazy, like so many other things, is on a sliding scale. Or a spectrum. But seriously, if you were to chart craziness on a scale of 1 to 10, socialism as an idea would be about a 5, I think. You know, if the government just allocates all of our resources, no one will have to go hungry, and no jobs will be exploitative.
That awesome moment where you have to work a job that you hate so you can pay bills?
Okay, sure, it's naive at best to think that giving any institution exclusive control over resources won't lead to tyranny, but you can still see how a sane person would consider this. But people who claim to be socialists online, in activist groups, at protests, on Twitter.
Sex work is a class struggle.
Oh boy, those people, they are pushing a hard 8 or 9 on that insanity spectrum.
A fascist is a fascist!
You might think that socialists in the past were a lot saner than they are today.
Maybe we can talk about it later!
But you would be so very wrong, my friends. And in saying that, I would like to introduce you to Charles Fourier. Who was Charles Fourier, you may ask? Well, on the surface, he was one of the most visionary utopian socialist thinkers of all time. His work was mentioned by Dostoevsky in his novel Demons. He was described by the anarchist philosopher Peter Kropotkin as the founder of libertarian socialism. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels cited him as an inspiration, as did later Marxists like Herbert Marcuse. He even is credited with coining the term feminism in 1837. In one sense, this wide intellectual influence is completely justified. This is what a philosopher looks like, who can simultaneously appeal to incels, feminists, Nazis, and communists all at the same time. And all it took was a complete decoupling of his ideas from reality. A small price to pay. Fourier not only thought there were 75 different types of cuckolds, but he devoted a book to taxonomizing all of them. And today, we as a team are going to be taxonomizing all of the many ideas that this father of utopian socialism was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over in a new series I would like to call Lefty Lolcows. But before we hop in the magic school bus for this adventure, I do need to thank our sponsor, my friends Virtual Shield. Whether we like it or not, our smartphones are data mining machines. Researchers examined 250 of the most popular apps on iPhone and Android, and they found that roughly 60% of these apps share your data with other websites and advertisers. Even weather apps were using user data for advertising purposes. The best way to avoid this invasion of privacy is through the use of a VPN. Virtual Shield is my favorite VPN. I've been using it for years now, and it should be used by everyone who cares about their privacy. Virtual Shield effectively protects your data from corporations, hackers, and your ISP with no work on your end other than turning it on. Even those who work at Virtual Shield cannot see your data due to their strict no-log policy. The longer you go without encrypting your connection, the more vulnerable you become to advertisers and hackers. If you're looking for a way to protect your data from advertisers, corporations, and hackers, you will love Virtual Shield. Get 50% off Virtual Shield for the next 24 hours by going to virtualshield.com/Lauren Southern or by clicking the link down below. All right, let's get back to the world of our insane friend Fourier. To be fair to him, Fourier might have been a utopian madman, but he wasn't a complete idiot. In fact, in some ways, his version of socialism was actually more sensible than the one we have now. His theory wasn't exactly that we could achieve socialism, but rather what he called harmony, a similar but more abstract concept. And within this harmony perspective, he was not as obsessive about capitalism being the root of all of our problems, but he did want to end it. He really just wanted a complete restructuring of civil life, claiming that the overall system of civilization we are in is simply broken on all levels: academic, life, work, marriage. In none of these realms were we following our true desires. And even if, as individuals, we attempted to achieve our true desires, we were so confused by modernity about what they really were, we just ended up getting deeper and deeper into this hole of ignored feelings, unnecessary poverty, and struggle. And you know what? I don't even disagree with this analysis. If this was all there was to Fourier's thought, not only would he not be the focus of this video, but I might actually cite him as an inspiration. Of course, we are terrible at realizing what we actually need for happiness, and hell yeah, everything in this world is broken beyond belief. But what did Fourier want to do about this? Well, strap yourself in, my friends, because the train to Crazy Town is leaving the station and it is about to go off the damn rails. Fourier's solutions, the dreams of this man, they are a realm of utter unhinged chaos, a cringe singularity, the likes of which no mere extremely online person could ever hope to achieve. As you might expect, when I've used the word socialism, Fourier's ideal world consists of communes, ones in which we all live and equally share the workload of every job.
So, I need your car keys. What? We share everything here, George.
If you remember going to summer camp as a kid and there'd be a outdoor water station, the pottery station, the sports station, and when the alarm would blare, you'd switch every couple of hours. So imagine that, but instead it's a summer camp for adults, and it's all the different specializations and jobs needed in a society, essentially making everyone very mediocre and slower at every task. But work was far from the primary trait of these communes. Fourier had oddly specific requirements for them, such as the fact that he had listed 810 types of personalities people could have, and he wanted 2 of each personality within each commune, resulting in the exact population of 1,620 people. There would be 6 million of these communes operating worldwide, ruled by the World Congress of Phalanxes. What the hell is a Congress of Phalanxes, Lauren, you may ask? Well, Fourier called these communes philanthropies. The word philanthropy was a combination of phalanx, the Greek military unit, and monastery, a community of monks. So, warrior monks. Kinda cute, kinda cool. These weren't just some random ideas he spouted out on a night where he did shrooms or something, though. Fourier full-on designed the models for these philanthropies, like full-scale architectural models of the things, complete with 3 wings for different realms of human activity. 1, a central part for quiet activities, reading, eating, and so on. Another wing for work and anything that was going to be super loud, such as forging and production. And apparently the children were supposed to play and hang out in the industrial furnace forging part of the building as well, because they're loud and no one wants to hear that shit. Even if it kills them, apparently. Then, lastly, a wing for ballrooms, halls, and visitors who would have to pay to meet the people of this amazing utopian commune. Now, the pay part confused me at first too, but the more I read, the less confusing it got, because apparently, Fourier wanted to treat all of these communes across the planet like giant brothels. And not just normal brothels, oh no, this was gonna be some boutique shit. Here are some descriptions of the sexual norms in Fourier's philanthropies. Everyone, including the elderly and the deformed, will be assured of a sexual minimum. To effect this, philanthropic corporations composed of outstandingly beautiful and promiscuous erotic priests and priestesses will joyfully minister to the needs of less attractive harmonians. The qualification for admission to this amorous nobility will be a generous sexual nature capable of carrying on several affairs at once. This will be tested under examination conditions. A polyamorous aristocracy of big-titty priestess chiefs. I guess that is one way to solve the incel question, at least someone's trying to solve it, but it gets better. In harmony, the notion of sexual perversion will be abandoned. Lesbians, pederasts,
He's a sex offender with a record. He did 6 months of Chino for exposing himself to an 8-year-old. When he moved to Hollywood, he had to go door to door to tell everyone he was a pederast. 8-year-olds, dude.
He said that. Flagellants and others with more recondite tastes, such as heel scratching and eating live spiders, will all have their desires recognized and satisfied, and will meet regularly at international convocations. And finally, Fourier himself confessed to a fondness for lesbians and calculated that there were 26,400 men on Earth besides himself who shared this abnormality. I mean, only 26,400 men who like lesbians. Okay, fine, it's weird, but this just sounds like the creepiest free love commune ever, so why did you call it a brothel? Well, do you recall when I said that Fourier wanted all 810 personality types in this commune? Yeah, he wanted these listed on cards when you came to visit the commune so that you could select a casual sex partner from the commune when you stopped by to visit. And of course, to get the privilege of sleeping with that person, you would have to pay a cover fee to enter the Philanthropy. But we're not done here. It somehow gets worse. And I quote, Fourier sexualizes work itself. The life of the Philanthropy is a continual orgy of intense feeling, intellection, and activity, a society of lovers and wild enthusiasts. Unsurprisingly, the only place a Philanthropy has been legitimately realized is in a video game called Tristania 3D, in which the evil empire lives within a phalanster. So there's that. Basically, Fourier's philosophy of how we would organize civilization was one giant LARP, which seemingly was only designed for video games and 14-year-olds fanfics online. But my man Fourier did not stop there. This dreamer did not just want giant warrior monks and LARP Amazon warehouses where instead of pissing in bottles, workers would come at their stations. No. He thought that when this utopia was realized, he wanted the ocean itself to turn into lemonade. And not only that, but in these new lemonade oceans, we would systematically murder all existing hostile sea life and replace them with new sea creatures that we would use as water horses to pull our boats. His theory was essentially that with changing weather temperaments and acidic levels in the sea, so if we spread boreal citric acid, we would get lemonade oceans.
And it was all yellow.
But don't take my word for it, here's a direct quote. The combination of salt and this liquid would give the sea a flavor of the kind of lemonade known as agricel. It will thus be easy to remove the saline and citric particles from the water and render it drinkable, which will make it unnecessary for ships to be provisioned with barrels of water. This breaking down of seawater by the boreal liquid is a necessary preliminary to the development of new sea creatures, which will provide a host of amphibious servants to pull ships and help in fisheries, replacing the ghastly legions of sea monsters which will be annihilated by the admixture of boreal fluid and the consequent changes in the sea's structure. The sudden death of all of them will rid the ocean of these vile creatures, images of the intensity of our passions which are represented by the bloodthirsty battles of so many monsters. Death will strike them all at the same moment, just as we shall see the hateful customs of civilized man, barbarians, and savages disappear in an instant, to give way to the virtues which will be honored triumphantly in the combined order because they will become the way to wealth and pleasure. Having a normal one, my friend, having a normal one. But you know what? Minus the severe speciesism towards fish, it sounded very personal. I gotta be real. I would probably want to live in this world. Lemonade oceans and whale chariot rides doesn't sound that bad. But let's get back to the sex stuff for a second, because even though you might think that Fourier would be a feminist, pronouns in bio, cringelord with endless retweets about how minor attracted persons are valid, his sexual politics somehow gets even weirder. Fourier was also obsessed with cuckoldry. I know, I'm not making it up. One of the founders of socialism was indeed obsessed with cucks. Like, to the point where he made a listicle, an entire book, of 72 different types of cucks, including a group that I literally have bought the book just to investigate, a group called the mystical cuck. Quote, "The hierarchy of cuckoldry, translated into English for the first time, presents 72 species of the male cuckold, ranging from such common class cases as the health-conscious cuckolds to the short-horned sympathetic, optimist and mystical cuckolds, and the long-horned varieties of the irate, disgraced, and posthumous cuckolds. For Fourier, these amount to 72 manifestations of women's secret insurrection against the institution of marriage." And the reason he wrote all this, you may ask? Well, he thought that through analyzing cuckoldry and men and women's responses to it, we could perhaps solve all of civilization's problems. This doesn't sound like a Tumblr feminist, does it? No, this sounds like someone who would have spent a large amount of his time on 4chan and manosphere circles had he lived today, arguing over whether slightly leaning into a picture was a sign of being a sigma, beta, alpha, or mystical cuckold, and of course how the Jews were responsible for it. Oh, we cannot forget about them, the Jews. Remember how I said he had something for everyone? Well, when it comes to the Jews, Pohl would have loved Fourier. The man was rabidly anti-Semitic, and what did he propose his civilization of warrior, monk, sex worker degenerates do about the Jews? Oh, just yeet them back to the Middle East using his lemonade whale chariots.
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
Which I suppose, you know what? That's about as sane as anything today's modern edgelords have come up with. Truly, this man is the apotheosis of cringe. But he is so much more than that. Like it or not, this guy is one of the founders of one of the most popular ideologies of the day. I could be glib and say this is proof that politics attracts the mentally ill or that politics makes people mentally ill, but I think it is far more subtle than that. You see, I'm not just telling you about Charles Fourier to make you laugh. Rather, I wanted to use his example to make a point. Remember earlier when I said that I actually agreed with Fourier's critique of modern society? I still do. I'm pretty sure the people he influenced did as well. But agreeing with someone's complaints is not a reason to endorse their philosophy. Because to really understand where someone's criticism comes from, to see why they think society is so broken, we have to ask, broken compared to what? It's easy to say that society is dystopian and irredeemable when you are comparing it to a permanent sexed up summer camp of lemonade oceans, whale chariots, and Comic Con for Spider-Vor. Compared to that, almost everything looks way more lame. But just because something seems cool or magical or whatever the fuck is going on in this society, it doesn't mean that it's possible. A critique of society might be insightful, but if that critique comes from someone who holds reality to an impossible standard, then we should probably take it with a grain of salt, or in this case, a grain or a drop of boreal acid. So even if we grant all of Fourier's complaints about society being imperfect, messy, or unjust, that doesn't mean we can just march off to the nearest philanthropy. And yeah, there were a lot of people that actually tried to really create Fourier's ideal society. In fact, in France, one experimental philanthropy built according to Fourier's specifications, the Familisterie of Guys, is still standing and is a tourist attraction today. As you might imagine, while the building survived, the community did not, nor did the many other communities founded according to Fourier's specifications. And the reason for that is simple. Fourier might have been right about society being imperfect, messy, and unjust, but the world is imperfect, the world is messy, the world is unjust. The world can be solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. We do not have to tolerate every form of imperfection or injustice, but in order to rectify those problems, we have to be able to embrace reality in spite of its imperfection, rather than retreating into a delusionally perfect alternate reality with blackjack hookers and mystic cuckoldry. If we choose to reject reality and substitute fantasy, we are not triumphing over reality, we are forfeiting the battle to change it for the better before it even begins. And whatever today's advocates of social justice think, forfeiting the battle to improve the world by refusing to accept the world is as much a form of complicity with injustice as anything they rant about on Twitter. Think about that the next time you try to wrap yourself in the flag of utopia. And I will see you all again soon, hopefully on another episode of Lefty Lolcows.